Haunted Earth 2048 exposed sinister secrets of the cursed survival in a spine-chilling dystopia. Every dawn, Claire peered out at the haunting remnants of what used to be a lively neighborhood. Once filled with the laughter of friends and the warmth of community, now it lay wreathed in shadows, decaying homes, rusting cars, and an ominous silence thick enough to choke on. Claire glanced back at her two children, 12-year-old Jamie and 7-year-old Lily, reading their artifacts of innocence beneath the meager glow of their one flickering lamp. As she prepared for another grueling shift at the local hospital, a familiar shiver gnawed at her spine. The economic collapse had turned once friendly neighbors into wary figures, hiding behind their remnants of life like trapped animals. Trust was a currency no one could afford, and with pets disappearing, whispers of dread invaded her every step. Their eyes shifted in the dim light, locking on her with a collective paranoia as if they all felt it, to the gnawing fear of the unknown that turned fear into a suffocating fog. It had been a long night at work. The sterile scent of antiseptic mixed with the acrid hints of despair that hung thick in the air as Claire clocked out. Fatigue pressed down on her, seeped into her bones, but she couldn't shake the feeling something was waiting for her back home. As she turned the key in the lock, a distant, unsettling laughter curled around her, too inhuman to ignore. Claire's pulse quickened, each beat pounding in her ears as she hesitated at the threshold. The car lights that used to illuminate the street lay dormant, shadows muttering sinister things. Before she could step inside, a rustle broke the spell, an ember of dread igniting. Claire clutched her keys tighter, readying her makeshift weapon. Dread crawled up her spine like 1,000 ants as she examined the empty street, the echo of play once so vibrant now replaced with the calls of nightmarish creatures. The shadows danced just outside the edges of her vision, inviting her to explore their secrets. Gripping the doorway, she felt a sudden jolt of terror shoot through her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That momentary distraction was a form of relief, but the atmosphere thickened as terror began to sink deeper into her bones. Missing pets were just the tip of a dark iceberg, and the whispers of local folklore danced in her mind, rituals supposedly protecting the community. A local leader, with a smile too charming, promised safety. But who could protect her from them? From him. Just when she thought the night couldn't get darker, her heart dropped. Where was Lily? Panic shot through her, ice-cold dread wrapping around her heart like a vice. Claire plunged into deserted streets, shadows flickering past like dark specters. With every rustle, every fleeting shape, she felt eyes on her, malicious eyes waiting, watching. Just when despair threatened to overtake her completely, a monstrous howl cut through the air, urging her forth. Was it possible? Could she be facing the malevolent force that loomed over the community like an insatiable predator? The fresh, awful knowledge sank her heart further, spiraling down into the abyss of possibilities. Would she find her daughter, or would she too be lost in the echo of whispers, another ghost haunting the haunted earth? Claire's heart raced, each beat a drum echoing in the stillness. Shadows twisted and turned, leading her deeper into a nightmare, away from the refuge she had fought so hard to preserve. With every step, the monstrous howl clawed at her sanity, its unnatural pitch resonating in her bones. "Lily!" she called out, her voice trembling and thin, barely piercing the thick veil of darkness. Silence stretched like a taut string, only to be severed by another low growl. She felt the ground shift beneath her feet, heartsick with anxiety and desperation. The moon hung high, its pale light offering little comfort as it cast long, distorted shadows around her. She stumbled forward, the shards of glass from broken windows glinting ominously. She searched the familiar streets, but the laughter of children was a distant memory, replaced by the haunting echoes of lost souls. In urgent need of guidance, she recalled the whispers of those who had vanished. Hanti, the townsfolk, warned her of the strange rituals that in the dark hours, The boundaries between this world and another were dangerously thin. Claire resisted the urge to fall into dread. She must locate her daughter. Her breathing grew shallow as she navigated through the alleys, where the shadows pooled like ink. Something felt wrong, as if the very air was laced with malevolence. The hair on her arms stood on end. Then she spotted a flicker of movement at the edge of her vision. A small figure? Lily? The name slipped out, barely a whisper. But the shadows shifted, and what she saw sent ice coursing through her veins. It was not her daughter, just a stray dog, its collar askew, fur matted and marred. It froze, glaring at her with wide, terrified eyes. For a moment, they locked gazes, and Claire understood this was the ghost of a once beloved pet, now left to wander alone in despair. Suddenly, the howl returned, more powerful, echoing off the desolate buildings. The dog bolted into the darkness, yelping in fear. Claire swallowed back panic, pressing on, her feet pounding against the cracked asphalt, as if she could outrun the encroaching darkness. The streets twisted like a labyrinth, leading her to a once vibrant park, now choked with weeds and shadows. At its center, an old gazebo stood, its wooden frame splintered and decayed. In the midst of the ruins, an eerie glow pulsed rhythmically, beckoning her closer. Claire's spine tingled as she approached. A deep sense of foreboding prickled across her skin. She reached out, battling suspicion, driven by a fierce hope that maybe, just maybe, this was where Lily would be. As she neared, the source of the light revealed itself. Fragments of broken mirrors lay scattered, arranged in a twisted pattern on the ground. Within the shards, her reflection warped and contorted, showing not just her face but glimpses of other figures flickering in and out of view. Some looked familiar, some were unknown. They twisted and writhed, mouths moving without sound. Dread pooled in her stomach, a looming sense of loss settling in, and just then, from behind her came a soft whisper. "Help me!" Claire whipped around, heart racing, but no one was there. The laughter of a child, once sweet, now echoed menacingly. It chilled her to the core. Another howl pierced the night, closer, more insistent than before. In the eerie glow of those mirrors, Claire felt the walls of reality begin to thin. What awaited her on the other side? Would Lily be there or something far worse? With resolve forged in fear, she advanced, crossing the threshold of darkness. What would she find? Would she find her daughter, or would she become yet another lost soul adorning the haunted earth? Claire stepped cautiously into the shimmering vortex of glass shards, her heart pounding like a war drum. The air thickened, swirling with an unsettling energy that tugged at her mind, promising revelations and horrors alike. Each fragment of mirror reflected not only her physical self but distorted images of something lurking just beyond the thin veil. She hesitated, tinged with hesitant curiosity. What lay ahead? Then she heard it again, the whisper, clearer now. "Help me!" It was a child's voice, sweet yet haunting, cutting through the unnatural murmur of the shadows around her. It sounded like Lily. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Was this a trick of the dark? Was it truly her daughter, or a cruel taunt from the unknown? Compelled by a desperate hope, she leaned closer, reaching out to the shimmering surface of the mirrors. The moment her fingers grazed the cool glass, the world around her shifted. The shadows elongated, stretching like bony fingers, wrapping around her limbs, pulling her deeper into the churning depths. With a jolt, Claire emerged on the other side, landing harshly on gravel. The transformation was disorienting. One moment she was surrounded by shards, the next, everything seemed the same yet radically altered. She stood in a different version of the park, now bathed in unnaturally bright light. But there were no children, no laughter, just a chilling silence. "Lily!" The panic spilled from her lips, echoing into the emptiness. A sudden rustle to her left seized her attention. A figure flickered at the edge of the trees, half hidden in the shimmering shadows. Claire squinted, heart racing. Was it really her daughter? She stepped closer, every instinct telling her to run, yet hopeful urgency propelled her forward. "Lily?" she called again, her voice wavering. Then it happened. The figure shifted, morphing into shapes both familiar and grotesque. Faces she thought she recognized, contorted in expressions of torment. She froze, a jolt of horror coursing through her. They were those she had lost, the townsfolk who had vanished with shadows of dusk. Their mouths moved in an eerie rhythm, yet no sound emerged. Their eyes were hollow, pleading. Claire stumbled back, clutching her head as despair flooded her senses. Was this a glimpse into the abyss? Were these victims of the darkness trying to warn her, to share their pain? As if responding to her thought, a shrill scream echoed through the park, piercing and raw. It shattered the silence, stunning her into stillness. The ground beneath her feet trembled, the shadows around her swirling violently, as if a storm of despair was brewing. She felt a primal fear seep into her bones. "Help me!" echoed again, this time from behind her, desperate and pleading. It couldn't be real, yet it was. Claire spun around, her heart hammering in her chest. The gazebo loomed in the distance, dark and foreboding. No longer a simple structure but an altar of dark rituals long forgotten. She had to fight against the pull of dread, resist the urge to flee. With a deep breath, she sprinted toward the gazebo, dodging the forms that flickered in and out, their cries pushing her forward. As she neared, the air thickened, buzzing with a malignant energy. The color drained from the world, leaving only bleak grays and shadows. Claire reached the entrance of the gazebo, body trembling. A powerful force rushed forward, illuminating her surroundings for a brief second. In that flash, she saw her daughter standing in the center, a beacon of light amidst the growing darkness. But just as quickly, the light faded, leaving Claire in a swirling void. "Mommy!" The cry shattered Claire's heart. With renewed determination, she stepped into the abyss. It was no longer just a quest to find Lily. It was a battle against time, against the shadows, against whatever malevolent force had ripped their lives apart. Claire's thoughts spiraled. How would she bring her back? And as the scream of the lost souls morphed into a chorus of despair, she recalled the cursed whispers. What price would she pay to save her daughter, to cross the boundaries of the other side, where the lost wandered indefinitely? Would she become one of them? The darkness was inviting, seductive. But she couldn't back down now. As the swirling shadows closed around her, a final thought flashed in Claire's mind: what if she didn't come back? And that was when a chilling laughter echoed in her ears, familiar yet so wrong. It felt like a warning. "Mommy," the voice softened, a haunting repetition, as she plunged deeper. What awaited her in the heart of darkness? Would she return, or would she be consumed by the shadows? The moment Claire stepped into the depths of the gazebo, the air turned palpable with dread. It enveloped her like a thick fog, the shadows writhing and twisting, forming grotesque shapes. She pushed forward, fear urging her relentlessly. "Mommy!" The cry echoed again. Where was Lily? That light she had seen, it felt so real, yet it slipped through her grasp like smoke. The world felt decidedly off-kilter, each step echoing too loudly against the hollow space, as if the ground itself could betray her at any second. Claire's heart raced, each beat matching the frantic rhythm of her thoughts. She squinted into the thickening shadows, desperately searching for a trace of her daughter. Dark whispers flitted through the air, a chorus of despair and longing. She could almost discern words, twisted prayers from the lost souls lingering in the fringes of reality. Their hollow eyes watched her, filled with eternal suffering. Their voices melded into a haunting melody that made her skin crawl. "Help us," they seemed to plead. "Help us!" It was maddening, the cacophony swirling around her like a storm. Claire pressed her palms against her ears but couldn't shut them out. Each face that flickered in and out of view was a reminder of what she had to lose, their anguish pressing down on her like a weight. And then there she was. A fleeting glimpse of Lily standing at the edge of the darkness. Pale and fragile, she reached out, her small fingers stretching toward Claire. "Mommy, please." The sincerity in her voice shattered Claire's resolve. It didn't matter that shadows loomed large, stretching monstrous fingers toward them both. All that mattered was getting to her daughter. She surged forward, driven by that singular thought. The moment she took a step, the ground beneath her twisted, buckling like the last breath of a dying creature. Claire stumbled, digging her nails into the gravel as shadows clawed at her ankles, dragging her down. "Mom!" Lily's voice turned frantic, filled with urgency. Don't! Claire fought against the pulling force, heart racing, limbs heavy as lead. I'm coming! She shouted, determination breathing life into her struggling body. Just then, a blinding flash enveloped her, illuminating the darkened corners. The gaze of the tormented townsfolk fixed upon her, their expressions screaming of pain that could be felt not heard. Crippled by fear, Claire staggered backward, momentarily disoriented. Join us, a voice crooned from the shadows, sickly sweet, reverberating from every corner of the gazebo. It was as if the darkness itself spoke. Not now! She shouted, pushing through the oppressive air. Not yet! With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward once more, collapsing against a barrier of shadow. A searing pain shot through her arm. The cold grasp of despair had latched onto her, tightening like a vice. The pain was agonizing, and she knew if she didn't break free, if she didn't act quickly, the darkness would claim her. Mommy! Lily cried, hope shimmering like a flickering candle. You have to fight! Claire's eyes darted back to the gazebo, the dim light where Lily stood dimming. Above her, a dark mass coalesced, shadows swirling like a hive, ready to swallow her whole. In that moment, Claire found a wellspring of rage deep inside. With a primal scream, she summoned every ounce of strength she had left, ripping her arm free from the shadow's icy grip. Leaning into her fear, she barreled forward, only to find herself in another layer of shadow, an invisible wall of despair. Help! I'm coming! She shouted, not just for Lily, but for all the souls bound here, trapped in darkness. The shadows around her pulsed as if they were alive, trying to suffocate the glimmering light of her hope. Mommy! The voice echoed, more desperate now. Would she be able to break through? She had to. Time was slipping away. What horrors awaited her in the next pulse of darkness? With one last push, Claire dove into the heart of that void, completely unprepared for what lay ahead. The laugh that followed wrapped around her like a shroud, and the shadows devoured her whole. What awaited her on the other side was a riddle more terrifying than she could ever have imagined. The darkness enveloped Claire like a freezing tide, choking her with its suffocating weight. She gasped, panic tearing through her as she plunged deeper into an abyss, losing all sense of direction. No light, no sound, just the echo of her own despair. Suddenly, she was released, thrown onto unforgiving ground. Claire scrabbled to her knees, eyes wide, heart pounding. The air here felt different, still thick with dread, but charged with a strange electricity that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Lily! She cried, her voice cracking under the strain. Her heart raced as she looked around. She wasn't sure where here was, but the oppressive shadows were still there, lurking just beyond her vision. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Claire turned sharply and saw figures moving in the distance, unstable shapes bobbing in the gloom. They shimmered like smoke, twisting and writhing. They looked almost human but distorted, as if caught in a perpetual nightmare. With every ounce of strength, Claire rose unsteadily to her feet, driven by the need to find her daughter and get out of this haunting place. She took a hesitant step forward, but the figures seemed to notice her presence. They swirled around her, whispering in hushed tones, their eyes lamps glowing with hollow light. Leave her, they hissed, 100 voices entangled, ghostly fingers reaching out but never touching. She is ours, no! Claire shouted defiantly, clutching her head. You want to take her? The shadows stretched and twisted, their shadows transforming into faces she barely recognized, neighbors, friends, even her own parents, lost and shattered by their anguish. Join us, Claire, they pleaded, voices intertwining with desperation. We are waiting for you. The guilt washed over her. Betrayal knotted in her chest. But the thought of Lily broke through her hesitation. I want to abandon her, she screamed, thrusting her hands out as if to shield herself. The ground rumbled beneath her, as if the very earth was judging her resolve. Pulses of darkness vibrated in waves, growing nearer as her defiance created ripples. Claire felt the air shift, charged with an unfamiliar energy. Suddenly, one of the figures stepped closer, lips curling into a wicked smile. It was the face of a little girl. "Mommy!" Claire's breath hitched. The likeness was uncanny, but it wasn't her Lily. This girl had those same wide eyes, but they were black, soulless pits that chilled Claire to the bone. "Where's my daughter?" she demanded, voice trembling. The spectre giggled, a disembodied sound that sent chills through Claire. "Always searching, but what if I told you she's already here?" Before Claire could respond, the ground split open beneath her, swallowing her feet. She screamed, clawing for purchase, but she felt herself falling into darkness, deeper and deeper, spinning without an anchor. Then, everything stopped. Silence blanketed her, smothering her screams. Fear throttled her heart. The darkness around her whispered secrets, each sound a sinister breath against her ear. "Find us," they hissed, glimmering figures emerging from the black, eyes like glowing coals. "Help!" Claire shouted out of sheer desperation, but the echoes of her voice sank into the void, answered only by maddening laughter. Each shadowy face held the promise of despair, digging deeper into her soul, and she fought against the tide of dread threatening to swallow her whole. A new light appeared on the horizon, flickering like a candle's flame. Claire strained toward it, heart soaring with hope. "Mommy!" The sweet voice rang clear. Claire felt the pull of her daughter, both a beacon and a snare. She raced toward the light, the laugh of the shadows taunting her as they clawed at her, trying to drag her into the depths. "Come to us, Claire," they crooned, cackling. "You know you want to stay." The light glimmered, beckoning her closer, giving her strength to resist the darkness. But it flickered, wavering like a candle in a storm, and a terrifying thought struck her. What if it was a trap? Could she trust the light? Would it lead her to Lily or to her doom? Claire took a deep breath, centering herself, bracing for the unknown. As she took a step closer, shadows writhed to stop her, a cacophony of laughter echoing in the void. But how far was she willing to go to save her daughter? What price would she pay to find the truth? And just then, in the corner of her vision, the shadow that had resembled her daughter froze, a reflection of hope and horror intertwined. There was something far more sinister at play, and the truth was lurking just beneath the surface. Claire lunged toward the flickering light, heart pounding wildly as shadows clawed at her, whispers growing louder, drowning in the madness. "Mommy!" The voice was undeniably Lily's, yet entwined with the sinister giggles of those malevolent beings. Each step felt like a battle against the tide of despair, dragging her back, trying to drown her in their agony. "Get away!" she yelled, battling the shadows. Panic surged through her, muscles tense, as she fought to maintain her grip on sanity. The light flickered, resembling a distant star in an endless void, promising warmth but poised to extinguish without a moment's notice. As Claire approached, the figures began to morph. They twisted, flickering like flames, forming nightmarish visions of her past. Each visage was a painful reminder of a friend lost, a family member forgotten. "Join us!" they cried, their voices blending into a haunting melody that echoed through the darkness. "She is lost to you." "No, no, and oh!" Claire shouted, fists clenched, tears streaming down her cheeks as she raced forward. Time warped, moments stretched as she slipped deeper into the clutches of despair. The accusatory faces swarmed around her, twisting into expressions of betrayal, gnashing teeth, and hollow eyes. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The silence was deafening. In the stillness, Claire felt something shift beneath her feet. A tremor ran through the ground, a pulse of desperation echoing her own. The light dimmed, and from its core emerged a shadow, a figure that stood unnervingly still. "Mommy!" the voice again. Claire squinted against the brightness, desperation fueling her. "Lily!" she cried out, voice trembling, a mix of relief and fear. But as the light widened, revealing more of the figure, the panic tightened around her chest. This wasn't her daughter. This was the little girl from before, her dark eyes shining maliciously. "Come play with us," it beckoned, extending a hand coated in swirling shadows, drawing Claire closer. "You can stay forever." Lily's laughter echoed faintly in the distance, mingling with the child's twisted invitation. Claire felt her resolve buckle. How could she let her daughter remain lost? Shaking her head, she balled her fists, forcing herself to look past the apparition. I won't! You're not real! The sinister child laughed again, and the sound cut through Claire. It chilled her to the bone. But she is. And you'll never find her. You'll join us before the night ends. Rattled. Claire turned, desperate to retreat from the taunting child, but the darkness shifted, the shadows elongating, wrapping around her legs, dragging her down as if the ground itself conspired against her. A wave of desperation surged through her as she fought against the tide, breathless and frantic. The light flickered once more, pulsing like a heartbeat, stronger now, urging her onward. There was something within it, something pure just beyond the chaos. It filled her with desperate hope. Lily! She screamed, her voice cutting through the darkness. I'm coming! Just hold on. Claire broke free from the grasping shadows with renewed determination, barreling toward the shimmering glow. Each step felt monumental, each inch harder fought for. The darkness roared around her, a cacophony of anguish and loss, and then, just as she reached for the light, it vanished. Devoid of the guiding glow, Claire stumbled, grasping wildly at nothing. The laughter returned, mocking her trembling form. The figures whispered promises of reunion laced with devastating lies. You'll never escape. She's one of us. Alone, Claire stood in the black abyss, engulfed in isolation. Her breath quickened, panic returned with a vengeance, ice running through her veins. Without the light to guide her, she was lost in the smothering darkness. But then, a shiver danced along her spine. A shifting shadow slinked toward her, and Claire felt her heart leap into her throat. It hovered on the edge of her vision, a flicker of familiarity stirring the air. Mommy! The voice drifted lightly, and Claire strained to locate its source. Was it a trick? A foe? In that moment, Claire understood that the shadows were not just living nightmares. They were reflections of her own fears. Perhaps amidst the anguish, she'd find a thread of truth. She took a breath, steeling herself. Lily! Show yourself! She commanded, her voice echoing into the void. With every ounce of courage, she pressed forward into the grasp of the darkness, determined to unravel its sinister web. And just as she felt the weight of despair closing in once more, a chilling realization dawned. The truth she sought was not merely the light, but hidden in the darkness itself. What secrets lay within those shadows? What was she willing to confront to save her daughter? The darkness churned around Claire, an ominous specter of her own making, whispering promises of what could be. But beneath that yearning, something far darker awaited her. Claire's heart thundered against her ribcage. The shadows pulsed with menace, a twisted symphony of anguish and dread. Each echo of Mommy lodged itself deep in her mind, turning the air heavy with despair. Where are you, Lily? She cried, voice cracking. She spun, searching the dark, feeling each cold tendril wrap around her. The shadows whispered in her ears, a cacophony of voices bridging the realms of the living and the dead. They danced just out of sight, flickering shapes begging for her attention, for her surrender. Then, a collective hush fell. The shadows paused, and in that silence, Claire felt a warmth and intense, fiery sensation that cut through the frost of fear. It surged within her like a raging river, but it felt different, like a forgotten memory clawing back to the surface. Face it! A voice commanded from within the darkness. It was guttural and unyielding, ricocheting against the walls of her mind. You brought this upon yourself. Stop it! Claire screamed, shaking her head. I won't listen to you. But the shadows slithered toward her, swirling in tighter coils. Faces materialized, familiar ones, menacing glimpses of those trapped forever in the torment of despair. Her parents, a childhood friend, even the neighbor's cat who she had unknowingly released from its suffering. They clawed at her soul with their hollow eyes, speaking softly, tauntingly. You left us, you abandoned us. No. Claire countered desperately. I tried. I'm trying to fix this. The darkness erupted in laughter, a whirlwind of sound that wrapped around her, squeezing tight. And then came the piercing whisper, you lost her long ago. Can you really claim to still be her mother? A surge of rage exploded within her, breaking through the grip of fear. Claire took a staggering step forward. "I wouldn't he give up on her?" she shouted, her words tearing at the oppressive silence. "You're wrong. I will find her." As if mocking her defiance, the shadows twisted and reshaped. They formed a path, dark and winding, leading down into deeper voids. "Follow," then they beckoned, beckoning with deceptive charm. "Find her. But know this truth is a bitter pill to swallow. Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" The path beckoned her closer, a desperate chance masked by horrific uncertainty. Claire hesitated, the weight of possibilities pulling against her heart. Then she thought of Lily, of her laughter, of the warmth she had known. "I'll do whatever it takes," she whispered, resolve hardening. She stepped further into the darkness. The shadows moaned, a mixture of approval and malice. "Oh, how delightful! Let us see if you can handle the truth." With each step, the landscape changed. The void shifted and morphed. Grains of light flickered like distant stars, but the air thickened with dread. Claire could hear it now, the pained screams of others, those who had been lost long before her. "Mommy," the voice cut through the clamor, slicing clear and true. It flowed with a hint of hope, but beneath lay an unsettling undercurrent. "Lily!" Claire surged forward, propelled by love and desperation, ignoring the icy fingers gripping her ankles. The faces looming in the dark faded, replaced by vibrant images from a shrine dedicated to Lily, filled with photographs of a happier time. "Please let her be here," she begged, shaking with fear. But as she approached, the room began to warp. The pictures began to darken, the smiles twisting into grimaces. Each frame reflected the shadowed version of Lily entrapped in distress. "I'm not giving up!" Claire screamed, and she raced forward to shatter the haunted images, focused on one thing, her daughter. But suddenly, the floor crumbled beneath her. Claire plunged into another layer of darkness, and the light above vanished like smoke, leaving her in a new abyss. She landed hard on her knees, gasping, her palms scraping against something rough. Glancing around, her breath hitched. A crude, hand-painted sign shimmered dimly in the dark, a chilling message etched in a child's scrawl. "You shouldn't have come here." Panic squeezed her chest again. She turned to run, but the shadows pressed against her, morphing into pockets of blinding light that threatened to swallow her whole. With a surge of courage, Claire screamed, "Where are you, Lily?" "I'm coming!" But the quiet that followed was thick, suffocating. Made worse by the ominous response from the darkness. Welcome to the end of your journey. What awaited her in this forsaken pit? Was she truly ready to confront the revelation lurking within the shadows? The darkness closed in around Claire like a damp blanket, smothering her. She staggered to her feet, her heart raced wildly. Her breathing came in short gasps, the chill of the air hanging thick with despair. She blinked against the oppressive shadows, trying to make sense of her surroundings. "Mommy," the voice was softer now, hauntingly sorrowful, weaving through the dark like a scarf caught in the wind. Claire turned toward it, drawn like a moth to a flame. Each step deeper into the abyss felt like a treacherous gamble. Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the gloom, rapidly growing brighter in contrast to the surrounding black. It shimmered like a beacon, revealing a dilapidated room patched together with scraps of forgotten moments. The walls were covered in crude drawings, an eerie depiction of children playing. Their faces were twisted, eyes wide with fear and mouths screaming silent cries. "Lily?" Claire called, squinting. "Is that you?" The moment the name left her lips, the room seemed to quiver, shadows writhing against the wall in grotesque forms. She squinted at a small figure, barely illuminated in the corner, a silhouette crouched low. Claire's pulse quickened. "Lily! Is that you?" The figure froze but didn't turn around. Instead, it whispered a soft, breathy laugh, half childlike, half sinister. "I've been waiting for you." With renewed determination, Claire stepped forward, but the ground felt uncertain, shifting beneath her, as if alive. The laughter echoed, bouncing off the walls, growing louder, twisting into broken sobs that filled the air with despair. Clenching her fists, she fought against the rising tide of fear. "Show yourself," she demanded. "I'm not afraid." The figure shuddered, and its head tilted slightly, just enough to reveal a pair of sunken eyes smeared with shadows. It almost looked like Lily, only distorted, a twisted reflection in a dark mirror. "You shouldn't have come back, Mommy," it rasped. The sound slithered through the air like a snake, squeezing at her throat. "Why? Where are you?" Claire flung herself forward, desperation taking the reins. "Lily, please!" But the moment she moved, the atmosphere thickened. Shadows condensed around her legs, gripping her in place. Panic shot through her, but she forced herself to breathe, to see the twisted face that had now slowly emerged. The figure grinned maliciously. "You left me no!" Claire shouted, her voice breaking as she struggled against the suffocating darkness. "I tried. I'm here now." Yet the shadows began to swirl once more, revealing haunting visions. Memory after memory cascaded before her. Each frame tore at her heart, showing moments she'd rather forget. The laughter. The arguments. The first day of school. Each recollection was tainted by an underlying dread that gripped her deeper and deeper. As they replayed, Claire felt her knees buckle. "Stop!" she screamed, covering her ears. "You don't understand." But the shadows pressed in tighter, smothering her words until she could barely breathe. "You don't get to choose when." "You never did," the figure hissed, its voice melding with the shadows, warping into a cacophony of her own fears. And just as Claire thought she might be swallowed whole, an otherworldly cry erupted from the depths of the darkness, raw and tortured. "Mommy, help me!" It was Lily's voice, clear and cutting through the haze. But it was different, steeped in urgency and sorrow. "Lily!" Claire gasped, pulling against the dreadful hold, determination bursting anew in her veins. The grip of fearless love propelled her forward, shattering the chains of despair that bound her. Ignoring the snapping shadows, she groped for the light, for her daughter, fueled by a primal need to rescue her. But just as she reached out, she was met with icy fingers snatching at her wrist, freezing her in place. "What are you willing to sacrifice, Claire?" the figure hissed, grinning with wicked delight. And in that moment, as the walls trembled, Claire's thoughts raced. What was she ready to lose to find Lily? The darkness whispered, the void deepening around her, "Your soul or your sanity." The tension crackled in the air like static, and Claire's heart hammered harder than ever. She stood on the brink of an impossible choice as the shadows surged closer, blotting out the last remnants of hope. What would she choose? What destiny awaited her and Lily in that twisted, dark world? Claire's heart raced as the icy grip tightened around her wrist. She could feel a pulse, a wicked heartbeat thrumming in time with the shadows. The laughter faded, replaced by Lily's voice, a faint echo hanging on the edge of oblivion. Each breath felt heavier, the air thick with despair and choking dread. "Mommy!" The plea was a knife, slicing through her. She tore at the shadowy fingers, but they were unyielding. "Let me go!" Claire shouted, desperation fueling her fight. The figure laughed again, a sound dripping with malice. "What are you willing to sacrifice?" it taunted, sliding closer, blocking her path. "Anything!" she screamed, the word raw and ripped from her chest. "Just tell me what to do!" A sly smile twisted the figure's mouth. It leaned closer, the shadows quaking as if alive. "Then your sanity it is." Without warning, the room twisted. The walls bent and the floor undulated like a boiling sea of paranoia. Claire had to hold on to something, anything, so she focused on the fleeting warmth of Lily's voice. "Mommy! Don't leave me!" The shadows began to absorb her desperate energy, swelling around her, dark and impenetrable. Images poured into her mind, scenes from a life she thought she could escape. Her heart twisted, she wanted to deny them, but they were her truth. Claire stumbled back as fresh memories popped up. The day she'd walked away, the day she let Lily's laughter fade into screams. Time false and fractured, it tormented her mercilessly. Each image served as a reminder of guilt. "Why, Mommy?" the figure whispered, transforming into a sickly image of her daughter. It was grotesque. Distorted features mimicked Lily's face but twisted into despair. It reached for her, fingers like hungry shadows, yearning for connection, yet filled with accusation. You left me. No! I was trying to protect you, Claire cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Protect me? The figure swayed, its darkness swirling. Or was it really your own cowardice? The air in the room thickened, vibrating with the weight of her shame. What had she abandoned to save herself? The shadows pressed in closer with every second, taunting her, consuming her light. Choose! It hissed, the walls shaking. Your soul or your sanity? Terror crept into Claire's bones. She couldn't think, couldn't breathe. I choose my daughter. Foolish choice, it mocked, and in that heartbeat, the laughter erupted again. The shadows grew fangs, inching forward, clamping around her resolve. Air rushed from her lungs as tendrils of darkness wrapped around her throat. Panic zipped through her veins, and she fought against the darkness clawing at her insides, threatening to swallow her whole. Mommy! I'm scared. Lily's voice screamed again, filled with anguish, resonating through the shifting darkness. The urgency rippled through Claire, charging her every nerve. How had it come to this? The weight of sacrifice drew her down, each moment a dagger at her heart. Oh! She gasped, forcing her eyes wide as painful memories flashed like lightning. I will not let you take her! The roundness of her energy crackled, vibrating through the thick air. She flicked her wrist, trying to push the darkness back, but the shadows tightened their grip, squeezing until she couldn't see. I would burn this world to find her. As soon as the words left her lips, a shudder swept through the air. The oppressive hold released just a tad, allowing her to take a breath. Was this what it meant to sacrifice everything? Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from her chest. It pierced through the shadows like arrows of pure hope. What? The figure shrieked, recoiling, shadows retreating like a tide pulled away. Heart pounding in exhilaration and fear, Claire surged forward, reached out. Lily! I'm coming! But the light blinked and flickered, fading around her. She pressed further, her feet connecting to ground that twisted beneath her. Would the light hold? All around her, the world shuddered. Yet, just as her fingers brushed against the familiar warmth, the figure lunged one last time, a shadow flailing in rage. Everything comes at a price, Claire. Darkness surged again, twisting with a new vein of sinister energy. What more could she lose? What price was waiting behind the light? The world tilted, the ground buckled beneath her. And just as Claire felt herself being yanked down into the abyss, she wondered if she made the right choice. Was saving Lily worth the terror that awaited them both? As shadows clawed at her, Claire felt the light from her heart surge violently forward. It broke through, shining with an intensity that pushed against the darkness grasping for her. And just before the abyss swallowed her whole, she glimpsed a small figure at the edge of her vision, Lily. Mommy! The cry pierced the heavy air, wrapped in agony yet tinged with hope. Claire's heart surged with fierce determination. The price she had to pay flashed before her eyes, but she would shoulder it all if it meant bringing her daughter back. Hold on, sweetie! Claire shouted, forcing her way through the swirling darkness, battling the shadows that sought to pull her down. The cacophony of whispers swirled around her, howling, taunting, promising doom. I'm coming! Lily's figure flickered in the distance, so close, yet so ensnared by a hellish darkness creeping around her like vines. Each step Claire took sent tremors through the foundation of evil, and for a moment, the suffocating shadows hesitated. Fight, Mommy! Please fight! The faintness of Lily's voice ignited something deep within Claire. The tendrils of her doubts wrapped tightly, yet the surge of love for her daughter was a flame capable of withstanding even the darkest night. Claire could feel the light pulsing inside her, drawing power from the fear she had once let envelop her. With one final pulse of energy, she forged ahead. You are not here to claim her! She shouted into the rising tide of malevolence, and suddenly, the shadows wavered. Each step took monumental effort, but now she was close, so close. She reached out, her fingers almost brushing Lily's. Just a little closer. The figure turned, shadow twisting around it in a frenzy, her daughter's reflection etched in desperation and fright. Mommy, it's too late. No, it's not! Claire cried out, her heart hammering against her chest. You are my light. You are every reason I have to keep fighting. The shadows screeched, a terrible, anguished chorus that reverberated through the very fabric of this dark place. Flesh of your flesh, you're bound to the darkness, Claire. It's a sacrifice you cannot escape. I don't care! She screamed, the words ripping from her throat. I will shatter these chains of despair. With renewed vigor, Claire surged forward, the brightness within her robust against the suffocating darkness. A dazzling light erupted from her heart, illuminating the void, and she felt the air shift as the shadows began to retreat. Despair turned to horror as they swarmed to shield themselves from her fury. In their panic, the figures twisted and writhed, revealing faces once familiar, each a testament to her past mistakes, begging for relief and acceptance. Claire, one voice wept, a haunting melody mixed with the reality of abandonment. Accept your fate, crooned another, laced with despair, but Claire would not falter. Drawing upon the memory of her daughter's laughter, of their moments together as a family, she propelled the light forward. It burst forth, crackling against the darkness, incinerating the shadows closest to her. Her spirit sword defiance was a powerful weapon. No! I am not defined by my past. I will not abandon my daughter. In that moment, a rift in the shadows opened, revealing Lily standing untangled from their grip. Tears streamed down her face, and her little voice wobbled as she reached out. Mommy! Claire lunged forward, breaking through the last barrier of darkness wrapping around her. In a heartbeat, she grasped Lily's hand, and the world erupted into white light. As the brilliance consumed everything, shadows writhed and shrieked in protest, their forms unraveling like smoke. The laughter faded, but Claire clutched Lily's hand tight. She would not let go. In a burst of warmth, Claire pulled her daughter close. We're together, Lily. Nothing can separate us. The weight of the darkness lifted, revealing the remnants of a shattered world. Claire held Lily close, breathing in the relief, the realness of her daughter's presence crystallizing all doubt. But as the ruins of their devastated town unfurled around them, Claire knew this moment heralded a new fight. Clouds stirred above them, remnants of despair swirling away like fog. Together they stood upon haunted earth, a mother and daughter united against the aftermath of horror and heartache. We'll make it back, together, Claire whispered, determination flooding her veins. The light began to settle, golden rays spilling forth, signaling the dawn of something new, something hopeful. No matter the lengths the darkness had gone to ensnare them, Claire had broken free. Love had pierced through despair, and through this bond, new foundations could be built, stronger, more resilient. They turned to face the road ahead, hand in hand, ready to forge their path anew. And in that revitalizing glow, they took their first steps toward healing, driven by a profound truth. They were not just survivors, they were warriors of light against a world that had once seemed lost. Don't wait even one more second to share your thoughts below. You need to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Claire and Lily's journey. And if you were captivated by their story, smash the like button now to show your support for this channel. This is the moment to help us reach new fans who deserve to see these exclusive stories. So don't hesitate, subscribe immediately to make sure you don't miss what happens next. Share this video with 5 friends who need a sprinkle of hope in their lives. Fight darkness together.